Are you having a bit of a thought around what do I do next? Are you a millennial that is going through what might be classed as a bit of a midlife crisis? Well, don't worry, because I'm here to tell you that you're not alone and that we can battle through this together. But with that, my name is Brendan. I am a recovering accountant based here in London, and I help millennials like you navigate busy lives and make sure that work doesn't suck. Now, in the space of 2 weeks, I've had 5 different conversations with 5 different people about how there must be more to life and wondering whether it's time to make a change in their careers. Now, as somebody that's had a quarter life crisis where I quit my job, bought a sports car and started a business, I think I know a few things around having a change. But what was really interesting is these 5 individuals, all independent, didn't know each other, all of a similar age, so kind of the 35 to 40 mark, wondering what really is next. Now, part of it is actually wanting to be able to make a change. So one of the reasons why I am trying to grow this channel is because I want to help people achieve. Call it leaving a legacy, all sounds very grandioso, but in actual fact, it's what do we do? Now, I think back to my audit days when we used to work really, really hard for busy season, 3-4 months of the year from March to probably April, to work super hard to create an audit opinion which would go into the accounts. Generally, people expect it to be clean, so if it comes up with anything other than that, clean just means that there are no objections and nothing to worry about. So if they expect it to be clean, and it is, it gets put in the accounts, it gets signed, and 7 years later, it gets burnt. The accounts, they disappear. So that made me question, what's the point? What is the point of what you're doing? If we do have to work, which, let's face it, most of us do, what are we going to do? And why are we going to do it? Now, going back to those 5 conversations, each person decided or was saying that they feel like there's more to life than what they're doing. And also, when you are doing your job, you want to be able to make it worthwhile and feel like you're doing good. A couple of them are fathers and want to provide good role models for their children, which is hugely admirable and I would highly encourage. But what happens if you don't know what you want to do? You could sit there and feel really, really overwhelmed. Well, one of the things that I suggested was write down what you want your life to look like in the future. What does a perfect day look like for you? Go for it. Take a piece of paper, start scribbling, and it doesn't have to be perfect. What do you do in the morning? What time do you wake up? Where are you? What kind of house do you live in? Do you have somebody to make your coffee, or do you make your coffee yourself? Do you drop your kids off at school, or are you driving to work? What you want to do is you want to set out and describe your perfect day in as much detail as possible. Now, it might feel like a slightly strange exercise, but by doing that, it means that you begin to think about what it is that you want. Now, I did it. I created an avatar called Business Bren. So what does Business Bren do on his perfect day? Now, I am a bit of a coffee aficionado. Actually, scrap that. I like coffee and I like to think I know more than I do, but to be honest, I'm still learning. So my perfect day is I'd probably wake up at about 7 o'clock. I'd put the coffee on, probably an espresso, boiled on the stove, and so you get one of those whistling, really sharp espresso shots. From there, I'd probably walk to my own gym. That's part of my ideal life. You know, I've got a nice gym set out where I can do some weights and work out before the day gets going. And then at that point, walk in, see the family, have breakfast, and then go on to do some work. And I go into great detail around the timings and the location and where I get to and how I feel and all that sort of stuff. But what it makes you realize is what is it that you're working towards? Now, I know that we talked about at the beginning of saying, well, am I doing something that's worthwhile and does it excite me and is it worth it? Well, if you don't know where you're trying to get to, how do you know what that looks like? In the world of life coaching, we talk about future pacing. So where is it that you want to get to? And then you work out what the preceding next step is all the way back to where you are now. Because more often than not, people will struggle, and I do the same, to be able to determine what the next step is. But if you start in the future and work your way back, then it becomes far more apparent. And in actual fact, you've probably got the answers already. Now, I think the advent of COVID, whilst impacted many lives in a very negative way, and I'm hugely sorry for anybody that's been impacted by that, I actually think COVID has done the corporate and the working world a great favour. It's broken the expectation to be in the office. Now, with that, it means we get to work from home. Now, I understand if you stack shelves in Sainsbury's or you have a job that you must be on a particular location, then it's harder. But for everybody else, it means that we can spend time at home with loved ones. We're doing more of what you want to do. And quite frankly, means that we don't have to commute. Oh my word, not standing in somebody else's armpit. Amazing. Although there'll probably be a bit of a hybrid model where we'll have to go into the office a couple of days a week, but I think it'll come down to the company and to the individual scenarios rather than a whole scale right back to the office, unless you're working for an American investment bank, whereby you'll probably get mandated, and I think many people will leave. But that's a whole different scenario. So if you worked out what your perfect day looks like for your avatar, then what can you do to start moving towards that? Now, for the individuals that I spoke to, some of them are starting new jobs. Some of them are quite entrenched in their jobs. Some of them are sort of freelancers and entrepreneurs. But each of them, all of the same sort of age, are having those doubts. And that's not uncommon. I've done it. I've had 2 career breaks where I've properly thought about what it is that I'm trying to do. Fortunately, I'm working in an industry and a world that I really enjoy. The data space is one that's growing, and I think will be fascinating to see how it operates and grows over the future years. But if you're not doing that, it's up to you to make the change. Now, sitting here, it's easy to say, make a change, quit your job, do something different, but it's fucking scary. Actually, it's really difficult to do, especially if you've got responsibilities. So with that, one of the things you can do is talk through your situation with your significant other. Now, I know certainly as men, we're often not great at talking, and I, for one, have fallen into that category in the past, although I'd like to think, and my other half will tell me if I'm right or not, that I'm getting better at it. But if we're going to make a decision, and it's going to impact us as a family, then it's something that we should talk to or talk about. It doesn't have to be scary. It might be the thought of going part-time. Having time is the most precious resource that we have, and I would highly encourage us to all think about how can we use that in a much more productive way. Now, productivity is important for you. What I want to do in my time is completely different to potentially what you want to do in your time. But don't waste time, whatever it is. If you are looking to make a change, then to be quite honest, the only person that's going to look out for each other is you. It's a harsh but fair lesson, but that's ultimately how it works. So what can I pass on from the conversations I've had recently? The chances are, if you're thinking about making a change or you feel like you're destined for more, you're not alone. If you are one of those people, I really appreciate if you'd write me a comment below and tell me what you're struggling with, because potentially, maybe, why don't we create a group? We could create a group where we help each other, create accountability for each other, help unlock some of those blockers that we've got. Also, have a think about what your perfect day would look like. Now, you don't have to make wholesale changes. In much the same way that marginal gains improves one thing 1% of the time, each time. What do you want to do that will make you happy? What does make you happy? Write that down. Just take a bit of time to think about what it is that you would fancy doing. Now, a quick side story is my other half, she would love to open a coffee shop. Now, I actually think if I'd opened a coffee shop, it probably would have saved me a small fortune based on the number of conversations and the amount of coffee they'd drunk over the last, let's go, few years. But I actually think it's going to be really hard to make it work. But I'd love to get to the stage where she has the opportunity to do so. How many donuts do we have to sell? How many pieces of cake do we have to sell to make it work? How many coffees do you have to sell to break even on your rent and rates? I don't know, but I think it's probably a shitload. But why not look at it? If you have the opportunity to scale down on your work, to give you time to spend that time with your family or doing something that you really enjoy doing, whether it be a hobby, a passion, a sport, or an endeavor, whatever it is, isn't that worth it? Peace of mind and mental health are hugely important. You need to operate by your own rules. Long gone are the days of having to conform, and even I believe the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday week is pretty much on its way out. It will take time, but I think it's an outdated and quite honestly kind of completely pointless protocol. But that's probably a conversation for another day. But think about what you want to do. If you're not sure, ask. Write down your perfect day for your avatar. Describe your avatar in detail. What does it look like? How does it work? All that sort of good stuff. And then think about what are the routes that you would like to go into. What is it that makes you happy? That will begin to give you an idea. And from there, you can start working towards it. Now, there are some key steps you will need to work out in terms of breaking down the plan into bite-sized chunks and starting to what you can do here and now. But if you don't know what you're shooting for, it's hard to know what the next step is. And that's it. That's it for today's video. If you found this useful, please do check out this video here where I talk about how I quit my job with nothing to go to because I hated Monday mornings and I had the huge Sunday evening blues. If that resonates, I think you'll find it really useful. But with that, have a great day and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.